Hi, and welcome to the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, produced by Visual Communications. My name is Farouk Virani. I'm one of the programmers of the festivals, and I'm zooming in from Koreatown. I'd like to acknowledge the land we're on, the Tongva and Chumash land, the original stewards of the land. We'd like to thank everyone for making this festival possible, especially the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Comcast NBC Universal, California Arts Council, SAG-AFTRA Producers Industry Advancement and Cooperative Fund, National Endowment for the Arts, and HBO and Warner Media. And a special thanks to all of our community partner organizations for their valuable work and continued support of visual communications. So with that, I'd like to start our artist conversation with the team from the Miseducation of Bindu. And I'd like to go around the room and introduce all the artists we have here. We're fortunate to have here with us today. So I'll start with our director and writer.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. My name is Pratna Mohan. I'm the director and co-writer of the Miseducation of Bindu, and I am calling in from cold and chilly Bentonville, Arkansas.
And next, I'll head over to the co-writer, Kay Tuxford.
Hi, I'm Kate Tuxford. I'm the co-writer on the Miseducation of Bindu. I'm calling in from Orange County.
Great. And our lead in the film, Megan Suri.
Hi guys, I'm Megan Suri. It's very early where I'm at in LA. This is probably the earliest I've been up in a very long time, so please excuse me if I flub a lot of lines.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us this morning. And as a huge fan of the film, I just want to say it's a great honor to be part of this conversation with you all. And I'm excited to get into it with you. So I guess to start, I'll begin with the script and sort of the genesis of the idea. I've heard a little bit about the process of bringing this together, but can you talk about when this first began? And I believe it was originally the Miseducation of Wendy, and sort of how it changed from Wendy to Bindu. Just but between the Partha and Kay, if you could sort of walk us through that.
Sure, absolutely. This actually started in grad school. Kay and I went to Chapman. And one of our projects that we had to do in grad school was the writers write a bunch of shorts, and then they are paired up with directors, or the directors find them, and they go off and make their first sort of short film. And in the pool of scripts was this short film called Whore, and it was this really funny, dark, tongue-in-cheek film that basically has a lot of the same elements of the Miseducation of Bindu. And the prompt was she had to write something about an urban legend, and that's what happens in the science lab. And I read it, and I was like, who is this wild child? I need to meet her. And I tracked her down, and I told her, like, you're my soulmate. Like, we got to work together. So we made that movie together. And then when we finished Chapman, we were like, let's make this a feature, because there was so much more we wanted to tell. So we sort of sat down and wrote this movie and tried to make it several times. And at that time, it was not Bindu, it was Wendy. And about 5 to 6 years ago, Danny Sanchez Lopez, our DP, who came to India for my wedding and then never left, he's been making Bollywood movies there. He was like, why don't you guys make this with an Indian character? And we were like, that sounds like a fabulous idea. Why have we not thought of that? And Kay and I went back, reimagined it. Bindu was born. And I don't know, and then it kind of took a life of its own. And then, of course, we partnered with the Seed and Spark and Duplos brothers from one fateful tweet one Tuesday, going to work, and we all just like put our heads together and we just blasted this movie into existence. And they kind of came in and told us, you know, why don't you guys make this a movie that happens in a day versus like a better part of a semester? And after a lot of wine, tears, and crying, and like pulling our hair out, we figured out what that story was, because we had to kill so many darlings. Like, so there's so much more that happened in the film. There was a talking parrot called Buster. Everything.
And we killed him. He's dead. Yeah, he died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But we had to do all of that and find it. So the film that actually ended up on screen, Kay and I wrote over 2 weeks, although we had been carrying these characters in our soul for like almost 10 years.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that, and I think we had struggled so much when we first wrote the Wendy version, just getting people on board for a young female lead, and it was scaring enough people away that we didn't necessarily even venture in the idea of making her also a person of color. And then suddenly, when we realized we could make this ourselves, it felt like we had choice. It wasn't like we had to like cater, you know, she could be Bindu. And so I think when Danny came to us with that idea, it was when we were kind of empowering ourselves to make this a film and not really worry so much about, you know, getting other people's approval before we made it. So I feel like Bindu, becoming Bindu, is like the ultimate triumph of us taking the movie ourselves and making it our own.
Absolutely. So then, just to follow up on that, was there, as you were kind of going through and changing it from Wendy to Bindu, for both of you, was there sort of some sort of elements that were universal that kind of could live in both, or some that could like only specifically live in Bindu's world that you thought could kind of highlight her experience? Or?
I think there are some elements that, you know, were, you know, being South Asian and things, homeschooling is not a very common thing for us because, you know, our kids like go to school, you know. And I think that was trying to find that sort of finding some truth, and that was a little bit complicated for us because Wendy was homeschooled. So that was a little something that we had to sort of massage in the new version. But there were some things that were very uniquely in the script because she was, you know, of Indian origin. And then there were a lot of things that were just universal, that applies to anybody who feels like a fish out of water or doesn't feel like they belong. And I think those are the things that we both could really relate to. And for me, you know, I'm an immigrant. I came here for grad school. So I was able to bring some of that, like what it feels like to be here and be different. So we were able to draw on all of these sort of things that are from our past and sort of infuse it into who Bindu was.
And I think the element of having that stepdad character who's kind of coming into our world, it worked well in the original, but I think the idea that it was more a multicultural marriage in the final version really augments that kind of disconnect in communication Bindu has with her stepdad, David Arquette, even more so. It just made it better.
Yeah, no, I really appreciated that. And it was a nice like parallel to see what she's encountering in high school and at home and how they kind of complement each other and what she can kind of draw from her stepfather in terms of navigating that. So yeah, no, I really appreciated that, and that really worked well. And I think yeah, for the time that, or at the time you created this, I think since today we've seen, I mean, more of an appetite for, I mean, and we need to see these stories, but I think you've got like Booksmart and Pen 15 and Never Have I Ever. So I think yeah, I don't know why we didn't have more stories like this earlier, but anyway, it's important to see.
We're so excited that there's so many more people adding to this conversation, and it's not that they didn't exist. It was nobody was giving them the space. So I feel like now people are just taking the space and telling these stories. You know, they're like, hey, we're not waiting around for anyone to give us permission. We're just going to tell these stories, because I think high school especially is so universal. It sucks for everybody. It's also amazing and wonderful, and it's also pointless and everything, you know. And that age is just so fascinating to me and Kay, and we love telling stories in that space, you know. And we wanted to tell a story where she's not prom queen or she doesn't become the hottest girl in school, because to us doesn't seem real. But we wanted to make a movie about the quiet victories, because just as Bindu was probably going through something, the kid 3 lockers down was probably going through something too, but just, you don't know because you didn't interact, you know, because that's kind of what high school feels like. And that's sort of what we were hoping to go out and capture.
Yeah, no, totally. I think in high school we have a tendency to kind of fall into these little cliques and pods, and your identity becomes absorbed in that group, and what you're actually going through inside, you know, you sometimes lose a handle on that. But so to follow up on that question for Megan, when the project was brought to you, when you first saw the script, what was sort of your reaction? What drew you to it? And I mean, what part of yourself were you able to see in the character as well?
When I got the script, I immediately was just like, I need to have this. That opening scene forever will be probably one of my favorite scenes, just like that sheer horror of hearing your parents fornicate. I don't even remember, like, I remember when I got the script, the name of it, and I was just like, wait, no, I need to have this. So my initial reaction was that I loved it, and I still do. And a lot of the things that I have so many things in common with Bindu. Pratna just touched on homeschooling not being common for South Asian, which is 100% true. And I did go to public school my entire life, except for my last 2 years of high school. So I had that homeschooling aspect a little bit down, and just that weirdness, maybe a little bit flipped around. that awkwardness, not like that gawky awkwardness and not feeling like you really belong anywhere. That was me in high school. I was fortunate enough to not have to have experienced the bullying aspect. However, I did live in India for 2.5 years, despite being born in the States. So I do remember that very arbitrary feeling of returning back to the States and people just thinking I was a complete weirdo because of things that have been indoctrinated in my time of being in India and being in school there. So a lot of things.
Oh, so that was interesting. And just to pick up on that, then, well, yeah, I take it you're American born.
Yes.
But so, like, when you went to India, did you feel like you were kind of the fish out of water there, or did you experience any
I was
like
too
anything?
young. I went there when I was about 5 years old. So I don't think that I had any kind of awareness. I was just a kid. But then when I came back, I just remember there's specific memories that I have. So like, for example, in India, I don't know if this is still going around, but in school there, when you get called on to read something, you're supposed to stand up and read it. And then you do that for about 2 years and it sort of just becomes a natural instinct. And when I came back, I kept doing that. Whenever I get called on to read, I would just immediately stand up. And at first I never noticed everyone just being like, okay, I guess she really likes the attention. But it was like things that I had to really like, okay. Or like when the principal would walk in, like just check on the class, I would stand up and be like, hello. And just like very weird things that the kids were just like, what is up with her? And I had a slight Indian accent too when I came back. So there were so many things that I just remember people, it wasn't necessarily me noticing it, but me noticing that people were noticing it.
Yeah.
It's too early to be making sense.
No, and I just wanted to again, like, be a fan out about your performance again. I just think you captured or towed this line about the awkwardness and then kind of self-deprecation at times, but there's like humor throughout all this sort of pain. And I loved it. And in terms of casting, I mean, Megan's on, but Prarthana and could you maybe talk about the casting process and how you knew that Megan would be your Bindu? And also there's obviously some other great cast members you're able to work with, David Arquette and Priyanka Bose, and maybe just casting process in general and how that came together.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you're amazing. And I tell you this all the time. I was very nervous about finding Bindu because, so we started casting this in 2017. And so we're not a bunch of young Indian actors just all like, oh, how about her? Like, there wasn't anybody. Or there were very few. And I was pretty nervous. So we found these two wonderful casting directors from New York, Ali Bean and Daryl Eisenberg, who loved the script and really just were like, let us help you find these people. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And I was actually surprised that I was expecting to get like one Bindu and that would be it. But we got like, about like a dozen. And Megan was just like light years away. Like, she was just brilliant. In fact, I remember like when we would see her tapes and we would all like, be sidebarring on the side, I was like, I think she's too polished. Like, she's like very good. We need like more awkwardness. And then we met her for like the chemistry read with Philip, who plays Peter. And she walked into the room and she was so awkward. Like, she was just such a weirdo in like the most wonderful, cute way. And she was so good. She's so like, Megan is naturally very funny. She has incredible comic. She gets comedy, which makes my job really easy. It was a no-brainer after that. Like, we were all like, she's Bindu, and I've said this a million times, but it was such a pleasure working with Megan. She's so hardworking. She's in every scene of that movie but one. We put her through everything you could imagine, shoved her in the pool, like made her dance, made her cry, do all these crazy things. And she was a champ, like, no complaints, always just like a joy, and it was so fun to see you, Megan, have that experience of being a lead and traveling on your own without family and living in Indianapolis for 18 days and have that experience because, you really appreciated that, like being like an adult actor, and doing all of those things. it was awesome. And all our other cast, like David Arquette is the nicest, most wonderful human being you can work with. He did not want the limelight. He is a star, you know, and he would come and just tell me all the time how much he was appreciative of being there and how incredible he thought these guys were. He would just tell me like, these actors, they just blow me away. These kids, they just blow me away. And he was a joy to work with. Priyanka Bose, same way, just lovely. Philip, Gordon Winterick, who plays Sam, he is such a doll. Like, he's such a kind, wonderful, grounded human being. And he felt so awful about the things he was doing in the film. So I'd have to constantly tell him, it's like, it's not you, man. You're okay, you know? So yeah, it was.
By the way, can I jump in and just say that it is so annoying when someone that attractive is also like so nice, because you can't hate them. You can't like go home and be like, it's not worth it. He's an ass. Am I allowed to say that? Whoops. Or like, he's mean.
It's totally okay.
Okay, just making sure. Oh, I don't know. But no, he's literally the nicest guy ever. So annoying.
He
Sorry.
is. He's so nice. No, of course. But I think, you know, as a first time like director for a feature, having the support of such an like a giving group of people who really trusted what we were doing and just went along for the ride was a real sort of gift for me. And I will always be grateful for that they just let me do this, you know?
Yeah, no, and it showed. I think it had a really like tight knit, organic, and everybody was working together towards the same goal of bringing that world together. And then, I mean, one thing I especially appreciated was, I mean, obviously growing up like a Bollywood fan, like many Indian Americans, the dance number in the middle was great. And I seeing it, I thought making the moves were awesome. And I also feel like that the shirt that you guys picked, like, just sort of complemented. It was the perfect shirt. I don't know, but I was wondering if you could talk about where that sort of that Lost and Found shirt came from, and where that choice came from, and also the dance process, bringing that dance together. And I guess it's just an open question. Then could you also talk about where that song choice came from? Because I totally dug the track and why that song was significant.
I want to talk about the shirt, and then we can talk about the song. Nobody asked about the shirt, but I also did a wardrobe for the film. And so it was my job to find that shirt. And Pratna and I were texting back and forth, and I was going to every Goodwill in Orange County and LA County for a good 2 months. And there this shirt was one day, the only one of its kind, by this company that Betty White used to wear in the 90s. And I was like, this is it. This is the shirt that she found in Lost and Found. And the moment we saw it, we knew it was the shirt. And I've never seen another one like it since then. And poor Megan had to practically live in it for 18 days. But it was, you know, it's just the brilliance of somebody gave it up and it went to the thrift store one day. And that's it. And it was our color palette. It was everything we wanted it to be. So I can't say enough about the shirt. The shirt came to us because we willed it. Okay. On a more serious thing.
Yeah, no, I don't normally geek out about costume design, but I was like, man, that's a perfect shirt. So,
it was best shirt ever.
It was like comfortable too, which is why I'm like, I don't know why you feel bad. In the Indiana weather, it was like there was airspace, I could move in it. There were so many activities I could do. It was great.
Where does the shirt live now?
It actually is in my garage. And that, along with a couple of other items, need to go off to some of our crowdfunders when they gave us. That's one of the things. So that'll all get shipped off in a bit. So the dance number being in the script is actually thanks to Kate. When we decided to make Wendy Bindu, the next version, the first version we got of the script had a dance number in it. And I was just like, yes, obviously, there's going to be a dance number in this. The music choice is actually, it's a song of my grandfather's. It's composed by him. My grandfather is pretty well known in South India for movies. So his name is MS Vishwanathan, and it's the reason why I make movies, because, you know, I was in proximity of his greatness and sort of like was like, I want to do this. I knew that I wanted to pay homage to him. I think I'll do that in everything I make somehow. And it just made perfect sense, you know, being Indian music in movies is a way for us to connect our culture, memories, childhood, family, antakshari, all this kind of stuff. And, it was like it had to be there. And we found that, using her longing for going back home through that was a great way to connect. And even the song, the lyrics are very much in keeping with that sort of feeling about wanting to be free and things like that. And it's such a funny song. It's so quirky. And I think my most favorite thing about having that song in the movie was we filmed it over the whole 18 days because we would shoot out parts of the school. And by the middle of the shoot, like the song would come on and everybody in the crew, a bunch of like, white kids in Indiana were like singing it. And it just was like, it would warm my heart when I would hear that. They would all just be like humming it as they're taking light stands around the building and stuff. And actually we did the last day, we turned on the camera and everybody danced to it like one by one, which we never ended up putting in the movie, but it was pretty fun.
That sounds amazing. That would have, that totally would have been an amazing like outro sequence or something. Or,
yeah.
But yeah, no, that song, it just had this like sort of feel of nostalgia and like reaching for something. And even when she was like getting high in that one scene, just had the total like right vibe. I was like, myself, I was like, I'd love to get high to this track. So, yes. So thank you for introducing me to it through the movie. And that's amazing for the lineage of your grandfather and being able to incorporate his memory into the film in that way. So I just wanted to sort of pivot, but talk about how you like to function as a director and your kind of relationship with actors, and maybe between Megan and Parthena, if you can kind of talk about how how you like to collaborate and what your kind of working relationship was like on set, kind of, and finding the comedy there.
So, for me, I like to just sort of talk to the actors about, building the world, where are they at that moment emotionally, what has just happened, what connecting into different pieces. So we did a lot of talking. We didn't have a ton of time for rehearsal. So we did a lot of talking. And for me, it was really important that Megan is grounded in Bindu's emotional arc, because we didn't get to shoot it chronologically. So she would have to be all over the place, and to keep that through line, and also making sure that all the other characters, because they all have mini arcs, they all sort of get settled, and they all needed to be sort of like shepherded through that. So that was kind of what I put my focus on. And, Kay and I wrote this, but, we allowed the actors to improvise if they felt something else was just bursting out of them. So there's a lot of lines in the movie that are like, Philip did a ton of stuff that he just would like throw out. And then, they would be like, are you guys okay? Would it make you mad if we change it? I was like, no, if it feels funny, let's do it, But yeah, I think a lot of it was these guys, they were brilliant, they made my job so easy.
I feel like I love doing this because I just get to hear Parthena just like talk so highly about me, and it just brings me back up. No, but the truth of the matter is this was my first lead in a film, so it was already a very unique experience in that sense. But I do remember right before we actually like flew out to Indiana, we met up at the New York Film Academy, where Parthena also works at, and we sat there for like 2 hours and just sort of talked about the script, like Parthena said, just went through it. But the great thing about Parthena is that she's such a collaborator. She's not a dictator by any means. Like, it was very much so like finding the essence of the character for all of us, and then just having the liberty to play around with it. And she's so laid back, and so I feel like Parthena talks. I've learned how stressed out Parthena was like through these interviews, because I could not at all feel that on set. Like, she was just so calm, so cool, so collected. So like, even if we didn't have another take that we could do, she was like, oh, you want to do another take? Okay, cool, we can do another one. I would have never known. So I feel like she talks about everyone being so wonderful, but the truth of the matter is that both Kay and Parthena were such champions, and just so like, it would not have ran as smoothly as that shoot did had it not been for their energies and just how awesome they are.
I don't know. We get to make movies. There's no point being upset. It's a privilege.
Yeah. Well, along with that, it seems like But I love, yeah, no, I love that feeling that you guys can carry that energy onto set, and regardless of what's happening off set or in your mind, that when you're on set, that you can bring a clear and positive energy. But yeah, no, I do imagine that for you, Megan, being in so many scenes, that sort of tracking arc and timeline and where you are emotionally, do you have any sort of strategies for like staying rooted in where you were emotionally at different points in the film? Or
I totally had to really work on this character. It's definitely not at all like me. I think the great thing about this script is that the writing is so clear that I didn't feel like I had to do an extensive amount of work to like prepare myself to get into certain emotional states. And I feel like right before a scene too, like Barton and I would sort of just kind of check in real quickly and be like, okay, this is what's happening. She would kind of give me a rundown before too. Like, and also even with the dance sequences, because we shot those out of sequence, it was the same process. So I feel like I had read the script like a gazillion times and had done my own work on the side, but I feel like the writing was just so transparent and so clear that I didn't feel like I had to really like take the time while on set to get myself from point A to point B. And I feel like Bindu in her whole essence too, she's just sort of like this ball of fluctuating emotions anyways. So I feel like that's just part of her. So it was really easy to follow that pattern.
I just want to add, after we shot out a location, she could have been like tortured by bullies and had the worst part of the day happen to her. And then we'd be like, all right, you're about to finish this location, go dance it off. And she would have to, no matter what happened, suddenly switch into dance mode and just put on a big smile and go for it. So that just, kudos to you and your talent, Megan. You made it work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Everyone was so nice on set. I feel like I didn't have as much of a hard time as it may have seemed. Like we were all really genuinely best friends. So I think that helped too. Like as soon as we called cut after them pushing me in the pool, we were all dying of laughter. Or them pushing me on the ground and tripping me, we were all dying of laughter. So I think that all just really helped. And also that song, like you said, it's like, how can you not want to dance and have fun to it?
Yeah, no, that is just so wonderful to hear, and to hear that collaborative environment can sort of carry that spirit through. Can I just ask about that again? Because it seems like Parthena, you have like sort of lasting relationships from grad school that you continue on professionally with Kay, and then I think it seems like you and your DP,
Danny.
Like, can you just I don't know, just any perspectives or views on finding collaborators and how like you like to maintain relationships with your collaborators?
Absolutely. I mean, so I've always been a very collaborative person. I believe that my work is only better by allowing others to help me make it better. So I've always been very open to that. Danny, who is our DP and is also my closest friend, we've worked on so many things together, and we almost have like a way of speaking to each other that's just like all shorthand, which can be frustrating to people around us because they're like, what on earth are you guys talking about? And Mike Villasuso, who ended up editing the movie, also one of our great friends from Chapman, who literally just texted me while we were out there saying, hey, I'm having major FOMO. I'm flying out and just coming to help you guys. I don't care. And he flew out and came and worked on the movie. And he ended up being our editor because our editor had to drop out. And it was a joy working with him. And he used to be my old roommate at Chapman. So it was like back in the old days, just laugh. And it was like, they all loved me and they wanted to support me. And I'm telling you, it is the most wonderful way to make a movie, your first film, which can be a complete disaster. But I felt so supported and loved by my friends who came out and made it. And of course, the whole reason this movie even happened was because of my husband, who's a cinematographer by trade, hates anything to do with producing, calling people on the phone or asking for money. Like, it is not his wheelhouse. And he had seen Kay and I for so many years sitting at our dining table and working on this movie, trying to get it made. And one fine day, he was just like, let's just make it. I'm done with this. Like, we're going to do it, and he stepped into the producer role and killed it. He did a great job, way out of his comfort zone and things. So, I always tell him, I was like, that's when I knew you really loved me, that you put yourself in that position, So it was a really, really incredible way to make a movie. And I will always make movies with my friends. because I really trust them and I believe in them, and they're all just so freaking talented. But I'm right now making a movie in Arkansas that I know nobody, not a soul. I don't know anyone. But it's a different kind of exercising things, learning to speak in a different way to get people to understand your vision. So it's like it's a good exercise for me to do this right now, and finding new collaborators and finding people that you can connect with. So it's been really a wonderful experience in its own way. So I believe in working with people again and again and again, staying in touch with them, supporting them. Kay is going to go off and direct a feature soon, and I want to do everything I can to support her in that endeavor. And that's it, support each other in whatever way we can so we can all continue telling stories, that's the goal.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm so glad to hear that that between you and your husband, you sort of found a way to bring this baby together. So this is like that's another form of birth, sure.
Definitely.
So, yeah. But can you, in terms of bringing the film to life, I know we talked a little bit about Seed and Spark and the Duplos brothers. Can you, an open question for everybody, or Parthena and Kay, but what did you sort of gain, or what was it like working with the Duplos brothers, and maybe what kind of, how did the film change, or what did you learn from that process?
So working with the Duplos brothers was really kind of like a crash course in film school. They are very, very nice people. They're very sort of encouraging and supportive, but they also are very clear about what they want us to do, but they say it with kindness and, sweet emails. But they really enjoyed the script that we originally submitted, but it happened over a better part of a year. And, they were like, what's your budget? And we told them what it was like. They're like, you're trying to make $1 million movie for nothing. So, they're really good at making things for cheap, but looking, for lower budgets and stuff. So they were like, we have this wild idea, make it in one day. And we were like, what? No way. No one is ever going to buy this movie in one day. It's going to seem like such a nightmare. And Kay and I wrote a 1 month version, a 1 week version. We kept trying to bring it down without making it a one day, because we just could not see how it would work. And they would read it and they'd be like, this is great, but give us a 1 day. And finally, we just were like, whatever, let's do it. We don't want to be the guys that didn't try. So we did it, and that's what it ended up being. And I think while we had a lot of resistance in the beginning, I think they made a very good point, because it added like this real intensity to the movie, and it was just like a rocket ship that takes off from the beginning. And I think for a film like this, having that sort of momentum is a great thing. And, they also sort of they came on more like mentors. So they told us, gave us advice on how to go about casting our actors, and, and then eventually with distribution and things like that. So it's been a pretty interesting experience with them. They've been very generous with their time. And, having their name on the movie just opens it up for different sort of, I think David Arquette was on this movie because he was like, oh yeah, these guys signed off on it, it'll be okay, So I think it gives us it gave us a lot of opportunities and opened up doors for us because of that. And we really appreciate them believing in the movie.
I was going to say, I think the 1 day note was probably the most terrifying note we got. I remember we had a video conference with them at the beginning of the year, maybe 3 or 4 months before production. We were still in pre-production, and they're like, make it 1 day. And of course, like you do on a video conference, you're like, that's a really good idea. Yeah, we'll think about that. Yeah. And then as soon as the camera went off, we're just like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And then sent a fury of texts back and forth to one another, going it can happen, we'll figure it out. And, we did, which I'm so grateful for. But it definitely was probably the biggest leap there, because we had known this story for so long and for so many years. To make such a big change to it, it didn't really change everything, but it did make us rethink it in a new way. And so it was a kick in the pants I think we needed in the last leg of the race, so that we could finish fresh.
Well, yeah, congrats on taking that challenge and making it work for the film. And so with that, you mentioned it kind of opened some doors for distribution, and just to kind of pivot to that, it's been obviously an odd year, but how has the festival run and the life of the film been, or I don't know, what's it been like, sort of what's the festival tour been like, and how's it been traveling?
Yeah. So we are very grateful that we got at least a handful of festivals pre-COVID. So we were able to sit in a room and watch the movie with people more than once. So I will always be really grateful for that, because I know so many of my friends whose premieres were online, and it's a different experience. It's just it's different. The whole point is watching it with an audience, and it's like, I'll tell you, it's so interesting to me when I go to a festival that is a South Asian festival or an Indian film festival. The film doesn't really play like a comedy. There's a lot. It plays like a drama. People are like, oh, And then if it's like mostly like non-Asian audience, they're just laughing their butts off. They're like, that was a feel-good movie. And it's always really eye-opening to me how audiences receive it. I'm much more nervous when it's an Indian film festival, because I know that it can be triggering to people. So I want to be respectful of that and have those conversations. We talk about it all the time. We're really grateful and impressed by the tenacity of film festivals to adapt to this really, really crummy situation, and still giving filmmakers like us an opportunity to connect with audiences. And it's been nice to like have random people who watch the movie like tweet us or reach out to us or follow us, and then continue the dialogue with us and asking questions. I have a young girl who's in high school who watched the movie part of San Diego's film festival, and she found me on Twitter. I think she's like 13 or 14, and she wants to interview me for her school paper. And it's like the sweetest thing ever, So I'm going to try and do that with her very soon. Those are the kind of things that I really love. If there's someone who's in high school or just out of high school who's like, hey, that movie spoke to me, that makes us like thrilled. So it's been interesting. Distribution wise, we were pretty close to distribution just before COVID. And then of course, everything kind of like went up in flames. But we're back, and I think we'll be pretty close to having a deal and being out in the world very soon. We're very excited about that. We can't wait for more people to discover Bindu. And weirdly enough, our fall-ish festival circuit has been kind of really stacked. So we're getting a lot of like people reaching out, and so it's fun. It's a fun way to connect with people. And see that the movie is still like, making an impact for whoever's watching it, good or bad. Both is welcome. So it's been fun. It's been fun so far. We can't wait for more people to see it.
Yeah, congrats, and can't wait to be able to share this with a larger audience. And I'm sure like a lot of my, I'm from Texas originally, but a lot of my Indian network in Texas, I know they'd all love to watch it and can't wait. And, but I really responded to what you said about, sort of the lens through which you view it, the way it plays differently to Indian audiences or at different festivals. But I mean, just the sidebar note, but like I just watched that Netflix series, or recently watched that Netflix series, Indian Matchmaking. And to people who were not Indian, they were like, oh, it's such an entertaining or interesting like way of dating. But they're like, how'd you like it? And I was like, it was like totally traumatic and anxiety inducing. You're kind of like, oh my God, dating and family and like expectations. And yeah.
If I hear the word biodata, like my skin starts crawling. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Congrats on a great run, and I love film. So I think we're like near end of our time, but to close, I wanted to ask maybe sort of a two-part open-ended-ish question for everybody. And I think you already sort of poked on some of these in terms of you being in Arkansas and Kay moving on to direct soon, but could I ask maybe what you are all working on next, or anything you want to promote, and how you sort of maintained, maybe this is a larger question, but how you sort of maintained creative energy through this year, and what your quarantine creativity has looked like. I'll start with it. Yeah.
Shall I start? I talk so much, I apologize. So weirdly enough, obviously quarantine has been awful in so many ways, So we all know that part. But for me, creatively, quarantine has been kind of good because I haven't been. I usually for work I travel 2 hours a day, and I got 2 hours a day to not have to do that, which allowed me space in my brain to write. I'm here directing a movie in the middle of a pandemic. Like, what's happening? So it's pretty wild that way, to be able to do that stuff. I wrote a feature that I hope I can make in the next couple of years. It's actually set in India. It's a also coming of age surf movie that is set in India that I'm very excited to make. Kay and I are hoping to collaborate on a horror film. I have to just coax her out of her, she's a little scared of horror. So just
So
gotta
scared.
bring her out of her fear.
If I have to write in a jump scare, I'm going to feel scared, while writing it.
But it's again, like everything that I want to make will have some sort of connection to my roots. It'll have stories about characters like us. So that is what I want to do, and that's how I want to spend my time and the stories I want to tell. And of course, hopefully get to direct whatever that people think I should direct. But the stories I want to tell is that, and that is my focus. So everywhere I go, I am pitching and trying to convert people into believing that our stories are worth telling. That's what I'm doing now.
So Pratna and I got more time, I feel like, during quarantine to pass scripts back and forth and talk, cheer each other on, and then talk about what we're going to be doing next. The nice thing is, since we've been friends since film school, more than a decade, we get to kind of encourage each other, whether or not, we're positions on each other's scripts or not. And so it's really nice just to have somebody who's always in your corner and always your cheerleader. And so we've been able to do that during quarantine. I'm working on a smartphone film, a small one meant for quarantine, about a homeless Postmates delivery driver out of Orange County. So something in my neighborhood. And so Pratna has been nothing but my personal cheerleader and giving me lots of insights and ideas on it. So that's been wonderful and kind of outside of my comfort zone. So I like to keep, branching out that way. And that's what I'm doing right now in quarantine. And creativity wise, I think it's really nice that we're at the point, I think, in the film world where people are starting to film again. People like Pratna are out in Arkansas, about to start on Monday on a new project. And, everybody still needs to and wants to make films so badly that it's happening in spite of the pandemic. It's happening safely, but it's happening in spite of it as well.
So I think for quarantine, I think it was probably the best thing that happened to me as an actress, just because I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And I think auditioning in general for any actor is just such a daunting, cruel process. It's so taxing on your soul if you're not surrounded by a good group of people. And I'm very fortunate to have the support of my family, but I feel like kind of taking a break from that world for a few months and just getting to really figure out what that's like and adjusting to that whole period, and then it's like being in a relationship. Not that I would know anything about that, but it's like being in a relationship with someone for a decade, and then just being ugh, and then taking a break and then being never mind, I miss you because we're in a toxic relationship. No, but it's been great to miss that whole process, and it's been great to miss it. And finally now auditions are back up and again, and it's just really great to get out there, even though now the whole process has moved from in person to self-taping, which again is so taxing on an actor, just having to re-watch yourself a gazillion times. But aside from that, that's my creative life right now. And as far as anything else, I have another indie film out called Dramarama, directed and written by Jonathan Westaki. That's doing its festival run right now. I'm really excited about that. Thanks, guys. And and maybe some exciting potential things in the future.
That's excellent to hear. Oh gosh, I just wanted to echo that it's this time it's really important to be able to kind of refill our souls a little bit. And I also really responded to what you were saying about just having some good people in your corner. I have a few film school buddies who throughout the course of the year, we've been exchanging scripts back and forth. I think we've been more productive than in the past, and really like present and with each other's work and in a good way. So I really appreciate hearing that. Megan, it sounds like you have a very complicated relationship with being an actress.
I'm gonna go cry after this is over.
Why wait?
But yeah, no, this is great, and I am so excited to see all of your future projects, and we're also so glad that we could include the film as part of the festival. It's a film I've been excited about since I heard about it. So a lot of love.
I want to say a big thank you to all of you at the festival. You guys have been such champions of us, sending our movie out to like a bunch of other festivals. Because every time someone reaches out, like, how did you hear about us? And they're like, oh, the folks at Los Angeles Asia Pacific Festival. So thank you so much for supporting us and sort of shepherding us through this crazy time and getting our movie out to a wider audience. We are truly very grateful.
Thank you. Our pleasure. I'm a small part of the festival, but for the whole team, I know that it's a real pleasure every film we can be part of. So so that, I guess I'll close. But if anybody has anything they want to say in closing, before we go off.
Just that if you are on social media, reach out to us, follow us. We would love that. We'd love to hear from you. And we're going to be just out in the world soon. So if you liked our movie and want to recommend it to your niece or nephew or your friend or your neighbor, we would be super stoked. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for watching this Q&A and being a part of Team Bindu.
Ditto. Thank you. And thank you, Farouk, for doing such a great job navigating this and exposing my toxicities.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, yeah. That could be of some brief service, but that's I know. But I imagine every part of the film industry, I imagine it's sort of like, yeah, draws or weighs on you in some.
I do love it, guys. I know it sounds like I'm going crazy. I do love it.
No, we all have our love-hate relationship with it. But we love it enough that we do it all the time, as much as we can.
Word to that.
Yeah, I'm sure at the end of the day, there's nothing else we'd rather be doing.
Exactly.
No matter how much it pains me, I will drop everything to go make a movie. Like now, I dropped everything, including my 4-year-old. I was like, see ya.
Okay. Good.
He's fine. He's fine.
Good takeaway. Yes, the 4-year-old's self-sufficient.
Yeah,
Okay.
Exactly.
So with that, thank you again to the team for joining us, and everybody in the audience. Don't forget, this film is still viewable now. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. The viewing window is going to be closing very soon. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please check the rest of our festival lineup for other programs as such. And if you appreciate the programming that Visual Communication puts on, please consider donating to us. Your support will help sustain our year-round operations and programming. You can go to vcmedia.org for more information. We hope to see you at another conversation. And for the most recent updates to the festival, please visit festival.vcmedia.org, or you can follow us on social media accounts at VC Film Festival. And don't forget to tag us at hashtag LAAPFF 2020. And with that, we will sign off, and thank you all for joining. Bye.
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 Thank you.